All right, so today we're going to be looking into the future of electric vehicles.
Okay.
And more specifically, two of the biggest players everybody's talking about, BYD and Tesla.
Yeah.
You've asked us to look into, who's going to come out on top, who's going to have the technological edge.
Right.
And, of course, what it all means for investors.
Of course.
And I think after looking at all this stuff, all this research, the SWOTs analyses, the industry rankings and everything else, it's shaping up to be quite the race.
Yeah, it is a very interesting time to be looking at this industry.
Yeah.
And one thing that's really caught my eye is this huge momentum shift that seems to be happening.
Oh, really?
Tesla's been the undisputed king of the EV space for years.
Right.
But BYD, the Chinese company that, used to be mainly just a domestic player, they're quickly becoming a global force to be reckoned with.
Interesting.
And I think the numbers speak for themselves. BYD actually outsold Tesla in revenue for Q3 2024, and it's a pretty clear signal that the landscape is changing rapidly.
Yeah, absolutely. And it seems like BYD is not just content with, just selling cars.
Right.
Their chairman, Wang Chuanfu, keeps using this term intelligentization.
Yeah.
And it almost feels like he's trying to build, BYD into like a tech giant, not just a car company.
Yeah, exactly. And I think this concept of intelligentization, it really encompasses this idea of, weaving AI and connectivity into every aspect of the vehicle.
Right.
And what's even more impressive is the level of control they have over their supply chain.
Yeah.
This vertical integration, it's something that even Tesla would be envious of.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, they're making almost everything in-house.
Wow.
From the batteries to those tiny little tire pressure sensors.
I mean, that's really interesting because that's so different from, a lot of the other automakers.
Oh, absolutely. It is a completely different program.
Or, really relying on all these outside suppliers for so much. So, I mean, how does that actually translate, for drivers like you and me?
Right. So let me give you a concrete example.
Okay.
BYD has this amazing concept called blowout control.
Blowout control.
Okay. And imagine this. You're driving down the highway and suddenly, bang, you have a tire blowout.
Oh, no.
Right. In most cars, that would be a pretty terrifying situation.
Yeah, you'd be in trouble.
Exactly. You could lose control. But with BYD's system, it instantly kicks in.
Wow.
It adjusts the wheel speed, the suspension, even the tire pressure.
Okay.
All to keep the car stable and safe.
That's incredible.
Yeah. And this is the kind of safety feature that you just can't get with a less integrated approach. And it really highlights how BYD is thinking about the entire ecosystem of the car.
Yeah. Yeah, and that seems like a completely different mindset
Absolutely.
than what we've seen from Tesla.
Yeah.
Which has always been, software and AI focused.
Right. And to be fair, Tesla is still the leader in EV innovation, at least according to the IMD's 2024 Future Readiness Indicator. But the thing is, their score hasn't really moved much.
Oh, really?
While BYD is catching up fast.
So Tesla's feeling the heat.
Oh, definitely. They are feeling the pressure.
I mean, not only are companies like BYD offering, more affordable electric vehicles.
Right.
But the traditional car companies, they're catching up on the technology front as well.
Absolutely.
It's a real
I
challenge.
think it's a significant challenge for Tesla.
So how are they responding to that?
Well, they've started cutting prices.
Okay.
But the big question is, can they keep that up in a long-term price war?
Especially when you think about how much their stock price is tied to delivering on those big AI promises.
Yeah, that's right. The full self-driving software, the robo-taxis.
Yeah.
It's all make or break stuff.
Yeah, and that really brings us to a crucial point, I think, for investors.
Okay.
This isn't just about, betting on which company sells more cars.
Right.
I mean, the real battle is happening on a much bigger stage.
Yeah, exactly. It is. And that's what we're going to dig into next.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Lay it on me.
So think about it. This is really a contest for technological supremacy.
Okay.
Who's going to control the future of AI in vehicles?
Yeah.
Who's going to master that connected car experience?
Right.
And even who's going to dominate in areas like semiconductors?
Wow. So it's way bigger than just cars.
It is much bigger than just cars.
Okay, I'm ready. Let's dive in.
All right, let's do it. Tesla might have a head start in some of those areas, but the traditional car companies and those Chinese startups, they're not just going to sit back and watch it.
Right.
They're pouring billions into R&D.
Yeah.
Everyone sees the potential here,
Yeah.
and no one wants to be left behind.
I think for our listener who maybe isn't, following every tech trend.
Right.
When we say things like, connected systems and connected car experience, what does that actually look like?
Right. So imagine your car. It's not just a way to get from point A to point B anymore.
Right.
It's part of this larger ecosystem.
Yeah.
It's a node in a vast network, constantly talking to other vehicles, the infrastructure around it.
Wow.
Maybe even your smart home.
Yeah.
And this is where BYD's strategy of vertical integration could really give them an edge. They're not just, bolting on tech after the fact.
Right.
They're designing their cars from the ground up with this interconnected future in mind.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
And then there's the whole battery technology race.
Oh, yeah.
Which seems like it's kind of a battleground of its own.
Absolutely.
It's more than just lithium-ion these days, right?
Yeah, lithium-ion is the dominant technology today.
Right.
But there's a lot of exciting research happening on what's next.
Like what?
Well, for example, sodium-ion batteries.
Okay.
They use materials that are much more abundant and less expensive, which could really be a game changer in terms of cost.
Interesting.
And then you have solid-state batteries.
Right.
These have the potential to be safer, more energy dense. Meaning you can pack more power into a smaller space, and they could also last much longer.
So whoever cracks the code on these next-gen batteries,
right,
they could really reshape the entire industry.
Absolutely. And that's why, for investors, it's not just about picking a company.
Right.
It's about understanding these larger forces that are shaping the playing field.
And it gets complicated quickly.
It can get very complex.
Yeah.
But that's also what makes it so fascinating.
Yeah.
The EV landscape is evolving so rapidly, and the potential for innovation and disruption is enormous.
Okay.
Which brings us back to those investment opportunities.
Yeah, you could talk about that.
BYD and Tesla both represent the potential for huge returns.
Okay.
But the risks are different for each company.
Okay, so let's start with BYD.
Okay.
They were featured on that Fortune BCG Asia Future 30 list.
Right.
Highlighting companies expected to experience some major growth.
Yeah.
What's driving that?
Well, first of all, they have a massive home field advantage.
Okay.
China is already the world's biggest EV market. And BYD is a major player there.
Right.
But they're not stopping there.
Wow.
They're expanding aggressively into Europe,
Wow.
Australia, Southeast Asia, even South America.
Okay.
And as we've been talking about, their vertical integration and their commitment to this idea of intelligentization,
Right.
it gives them a real competitive edge.
But, they're not without risks, right?
Of course, not every company has risks.
Okay.
And one thing I read that I thought was interesting is their reliance on government subsidies.
Yeah.
Could potentially be a problem if those policies change.
That's true for a lot of EV makers, though, right?
Yes, it is. Like a lot of EV makers. BYD has benefited from government support in China, but those subsidies are starting to wind down.
Okay.
So the real test will be whether they can maintain their price advantage and profitability as they transition to a more market-driven environment.
Okay, and what about Tesla?
Yeah.
They've hit a few speed bumps lately, right?
Yeah, they have.
Increased competition, concerns about their very high valuation.
Right.
So what's the outlook there?
Well, I think Tesla's future really hinges on whether Elon Musk can actually deliver on those ambitious promises, especially when it comes to AI.
Right.
Full self-driving, the robo-taxi vision. These are central to their growth narrative.
Yeah.
If they can achieve true self-driving, it would be revolutionary.
Oh, absolutely.
Not just for the car industry, but for transportation in general.
It would change everything.
Right, exactly. But if the hype outpaces reality, and they stumble, their stock price could take a major hit.
Plus, they're facing so much more competition now.
Yeah, that's right.
Not just from, the established automakers who are finally getting serious about EVs, but also from these Chinese companies like BYD.
Oh, exactly.
The price war is heating up.
It is.
And Tesla's already had to cut prices to stay competitive. Can they keep that up and still protect their profit margins?
That's the million-dollar question for investors.
Yeah, right.
Tesla's valuation is still sky high.
Yeah.
And it's based on this assumption of continued growth and innovation.
Okay.
So if they can't keep up with the competition, both in terms of technology and price, that valuation could come crashing down.
So it sounds like there's a lot for investors to consider here.
Absolutely. There is a lot to think about.
It's more than just, picking a cool car company.
It is much more than that.
It's really, digging into the details.
Yeah, you need to do your research.
Understanding the long-term trends, how the different companies' strategies match up.
Absolutely.
And I think critically, what your own personal risk tolerance is.
Right. Risk tolerance is a big factor.
So we talked about, BYD's strengths.
Yes.
That integrated approach that focus on intelligentization, their aggressive global expansion. We've covered Tesla's strengths as well.
Right.
That brand recognition, software expertise, and all those ambitious AI goals.
Yeah.
But every company has weaknesses too, right?
Oh, of course, every company has weaknesses.
Okay, so what are some of those?
Well, let's start with BYD.
Okay.
One of their biggest challenges, at least globally, is their limited brand recognition outside of China.
Makes sense.
In a lot of markets, they're still relatively unknown.
Okay.
Which could make it difficult to gain ground against those established car brands.
Yeah, it takes time to build a global reputation.
It does.
Okay.
What about Tesla?
So for Tesla, their reliance on Elon Musk has always been kind of a double-edged sword.
In what way?
Well, I mean, what happens if he gets distracted by his other companies?
Right.
Like SpaceX or formerly Twitter.
Yeah, that's a lot for one person to juggle.
It is a lot, even for someone as brilliant as Elon Musk.
Okay, so that's something to consider.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so let's flip the coin now. Talk about opportunities.
Right.
What are some potential areas for growth for both of these companies?
So for BYD, I think a big opportunity lies in diversifying their product line.
Okay.
They're already a force in electric cars.
But they could branch out into other areas.
Yeah.
Electric buses, trucks, commercial vehicles.
Yeah.
They've got the technology and the manufacturing capability to do it.
I mean, they started out as a battery company, right?
They did.
So it wouldn't be surprising to see them really leverage that expertise and, go into other industries as well.
Yeah.
What about Tesla?
So for Tesla, I think a big opportunity lies in establishing themselves as a true lifestyle brand.
Okay.
They already have this incredibly passionate fan base.
Yeah, they do.
But they could take it further.
How so?
By expanding into other areas.
Right.
Energy storage with their Powerwall.
Okay.
Solar power with Solar City.
Right.
Even home automation.
So they would be like a one-stop shop for everything.
Yeah, kind of like a Tesla ecosystem.
Yeah, and they already have this image of being futuristic and innovative.
Exactly.
So if they could really seamlessly integrate their cars with other parts of people's lives, that could be really powerful.
It's a strategy that Apple has used very effectively.
Yeah.
And Tesla seems to be moving in that direction as well.
Okay, so strengths, weaknesses, opportunities. Now let's get to the big one.
Okay.
Threats.
Yeah.
What are some potential challenges that could derail BYD or Tesla's plans?
So for BYD, a major threat is the increasing competition.
Okay.
And not just from Tesla, but also from other Chinese EV makers like Neoli Auto Xpeng.
Yeah.
The Chinese EV market is incredibly crowded.
Right.
And the price war is fierce.
Yeah.
So BYD really needs to stay ahead of the curve in terms of innovation and technology to hold on to its market share.
And Tesla.
Yeah, so Tesla's been getting a lot of scrutiny over their self-driving technology.
Right, with those accidents and stuff.
Yeah, there have been some pretty serious legal challenges related to accidents and safety concerns. So that could potentially put a stop to their self-driving ambitions.
And the regulations around self-driving are still being worked out.
They are.
So any major setbacks or bad press could really impact them.
Absolutely.
And then there's the whole issue of reliance on rare earth metals for battery production.
Right.
Those supply chains are so complex.
They are incredibly complex.
And they're vulnerable to, all these geopolitical risks.
Absolutely.
So any disruption there could really send shockwaves.
Yeah, it could affect the entire EV industry.
So that's a concern for both companies.
Definitely both BYD and Tesla.
Okay.
And it's something investors need to pay close attention to.
So it sounds like both BYD and Tesla are facing a lot of challenges.
They are.
But they're also operating in a market with huge growth potential.
Absolutely.
It's a high-stakes game.
It is a very high-stakes game.
The EV industry is still in its early stages.
It is.
And the companies that can navigate these challenges and capitalize on all the opportunities are the ones who are going to come out on top. Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground.
We have.
We explored the rise of BYD, the challenges facing Tesla, all those battlegrounds that go beyond just selling cars.
Right.
And of course, what it all means for investors.
Yeah, and we've looked at some of the key trends that are shaping the future of EVs.
Yeah.
From connected systems to battery technology to the legal complexities of self-driving vehicles.
It's a lot.
It is a lot to consider.
But hopefully our listener is starting to get a clearer picture of this dynamic and rapidly evolving industry.
Yeah.
It's not just about cars anymore.
It's not.
It's about technology, sustainability, and the future of how we get around.
Yeah. Yeah, it really is a fascinating time to be following all this. So as we wrap up this deep dive, what's the one big question you want our listeners to walk away with? Like what's the thought that's going to stick with them?
You know what I find really compelling is this. Imagine a future where cars are like seamlessly woven into the fabric of smart cities, powered by renewable energy and guided by advanced AI.
Now the question is, who's going to dominate that landscape?
Right.
Will it be BYD with their incredible focus on system-level integration and, that control over their entire supply chain? Or will it be Tesla with their bold bet on AI as the ultimate driver and, their track record of shaking up entire industries?
I mean, that's really the core of it, right? It's bigger than just building and selling cars.
Exactly.
We're talking about a fundamental shift in how we think about transportation technology, the future of mobility.
And the choices these companies are making today are going to determine what that future looks like.
It's exciting and a little bit scary at the same time.
It's both.
Yeah.
And it's happening right now.
Yeah.
In real time, the decisions made by companies like BYD and Tesla will have a ripple effect for years to come.
Absolutely.
And investors who understand these dynamics, who can see that long game, they're the ones who will be best positioned to benefit from this incredible transformation.
So there you have it.
Yeah.
Our deep dive into the battle for the future of EVs.
It's been quite a journey.
It has. We've analyzed the strengths, the weaknesses, the opportunities, the threats for both BYD and Tesla. And hopefully you, the listener, now have a more nuanced understanding of this dynamic and complex industry.
Yeah, I hope so.
And what it might mean for your own investment decisions.
Right. And remember, the best investment you can make is in knowledge.
Absolutely.
Keep learning, stay curious, and keep exploring. The future of mobility is being written right now.
It is.
And in many ways, it's in your hands as an investor and as a consumer.
That's a great point to end on. So thank you so much for joining us today for this deep dive, and we'll see you next time.